Have you ever seen a painting that genuinely disturbs you? A painting that touches your soul in a way that leaves you unsettled? A work of art that sticks with you long after you've stopped looking at it, frozen in your mind like a vivid nightmare? Certain works seem to have an eerie presence about them, a strange aura. Among them is The Nightmare by Henry Fuseli, an unnerving depiction of sleep paralysis where a demon-like incubus looms over a lifeless dreamer. William Blake's The Ghost of a Flea was reportedly the result of a seance, a grotesque creature summoned into existence. Katsushika Hokusai's The Phantom of Kohada Koheiji tells the chilling tale of a murdered actor's vengeful spirit, forever haunting his killers. Francis Bacon's study after Velázquez's portrait of Innocent X transforms a revered papal portrait into a vision of existential terror, a scream trapped in silence. And then there is The Anguished Man, an ominous painting of unknown origin, rumored to be cursed and responsible for disturbing paranormal activity. Whether fueled by superstition, legend, or something far more inexplicable, they continue to captivate and unnerve those who dare to look. Let's explore them together on Fireside Unsolved, episode 153, 5 Strange and Mysterious Paintings in History, part 3. The Nightmare is a frightening oil painting created in 1781 by Swiss artist Henry Fuseli. This artwork depicts both aspects of experiencing a nightmare, illustrating the sleeping woman's physical reaction and the unsettling visions from her dream world. The painting is of a woman, sprawled across a bed. Her body is limp, and her head is dangling over the edge, exposing her neck. On her chest sits an evil-looking demon, with an unsettling stare directly at the observer. Henry Fuseli contrasts light and shadows with the pale figure of the woman set against deep reds, browns, and yellows. The room is richly decorated, with red velvet curtains cascading behind the bed. A small table nearby holds a mirror, a book, and a glass vial. Peering through a gap in the curtains, the unnerving ghostly head of a horse with wide, pupilless eyes. The connection between the demon and the horse, a mare, suggests a direct link to the concept of nightmares. The artist likely drew inspiration from his own experiences with sleep paralysis for the painting. During the time in the 18th century, these waking dreams were often associated with folklore, legend, and supernatural beliefs. The very word nightmare traces its origins to Mara, a spirit from Scandinavian mythology said to haunt and suffocate sleeping people. Historically, the term referred to both nightmares and sleep paralysis, marked by an oppressive weight on the chest, breathlessness, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Henry Fuseli, who was also an ordained minister, was deeply fascinated by the themes of sleep and dreams, though the nightmare stands out in his body of work for its absence of religious or literary references. The painting's unsettling atmosphere creates a sense of unease, and has made the nightmare one of the most chilling paintings in history. The Ghost of a Flea is a bizarre miniature painting by English poet, painter, and printmaker William Blake. Despite its small size, measuring just around 8.5 inches by 6 inches, or 21 centimeters by 16 centimeters, this work carries weighty presence. Completed between 1819 and 1820, it was part of a series of visionary heads, commissioned by watercolorist and astrologer John Varley. William Blake first met John Varley in the fall of 1818. Even though John was 21 years younger than William, he was an enthusiastic believer in astrology and the supernatural. And while he was deeply fascinated by spirits, to his frustration, he could not see them himself. William, on the other hand, claimed to have experienced visions since childhood. The two men developed an unusual ritual. They would gather at John's house, where Varley would attempt to summon the spirit of a historical or mythical figure. Once William said that he saw the apparition, he would quickly sketch what it looked like. It was during one of these sessions, late one night, that the Ghost of a Flea was born, solidifying William Blake's reputation as both an artist and a visionary. According to John Varley, the vision of a flea first appeared to Blake during a seance in 1819. Varley later recounted the encounter in vivid detail. As I was anxious to make the most correct investigation in my power of the truth of these visions, on hearing of the spiritual apparition of a flea, I asked him if he could draw for me the resemblance of what he saw. He instantly said, "I see him now, before me." I therefore gave him paper and a pencil with which he drew the portrait. I felt convinced by his mode of proceeding that he had a real image before him, for he left off and began on another part of the paper to make a separate drawing of the mouth of the flea, which the spirit having opened, he was prevented from proceeding with the first sketch till he had closed it. In the painting, this grotesque, hideous, muscular creature looks like it's part human, part vampire, and part reptile. Its snake-like tongue extends outward, while its bulky neck supports a disproportionately small head with glaring eyes and open mouth. The flea strides ominously from right to left, framed by heavy, richly decorated curtains. In one hand, it clutches an acorn, and in the other, a thorn, both symbols commonly found in fairy lore. Blake's extraordinary perception of the supernatural was well documented, even beyond his artistic versions of them. He often claimed that as he sketched, he was accompanied by invisible sitters, figures from history and mythology, including angels, Voltaire, Moses, and even the flea itself. According to Blake, the flea revealed a dark secret. Fleas are inhabited by the souls of men who by nature are excessively bloodthirsty. After William Blake's passing, written in one of Blake's obituaries, a story was told about how one night the flea allegedly shared with him a memory from the moment of creation. At first, it was intended that I should be as large as a bullock. But upon realizing that, given my nature and strength, I would have become an unstoppable force of destruction, it was decided to make me no bigger than I am. With all that being said, during Blake's lifetime, his visions and supernatural works were often dismissed as the ramblings of a madman. His reputation for seeing spirits fueled speculation about his mental state. Few were willing to believe that the artist truly witnessed the things he claimed. But whether seen as genius or insanity, his work remains unforgettable. The Phantom of Kohada Koheiji is a strange and creepy painting by the renowned Japanese artist Katsushika Hokusai. While modern viewers may see this painting as vibrant and lively, Hokusai's contemporaries associated it with death and the supernatural. Originally intended as part of his series titled 100 Ghost Tales, from 1831 to 1832, the project was never fully completed, and only 5 prints from the collection are known to exist. The series title references a traditional Japanese parlor game in which participants would gather at night to share ghost stories, blowing out a candle after each tale until the room was plunged into complete darkness. This particular print depicts the chilling legend of Kohada Koheiji, a kabuki actor who was murdered by his wife's lover, drowned and left to die. However, his story did not end there. His vengeful spirit returned from beyond the grave, haunting the couple until his wife perished and her lover descended into madness before ultimately taking his own life. Study After Velázquez's portrait of Pope Innocent X is a 1953 painting by Francis Bacon, offering a reinterpretation of Diego Velázquez's 1650 masterpiece. Despite being known for his extravagant social life, Bacon was notoriously private about his artistic process, often destroying works that failed to meet his exacting standards. Many of his papal portraits never survived his own scrutiny. This unsettling work is one of the earliest in a series of nearly 50 variations on Velázquez's portrait that Bacon created throughout the 1950s and early 1960s. In this version, however, the Pope is depicted mid-scream, almost like his voice is trapped, muffled and swallowed by the deep, oppressive shadows that surround him. The dark background, combined with Bacon's rich, ominous color palette, transforms the normally dignified religious figure into a nightmarish specter. The figure in Bacon's version is unmistakably a pope, identified by his ceremonial vestments. Yet rather than exuding authority, he appears confined within an abstract enclosure. This framing device, referred to by art critic David Sylvester as a space frame, became a recurring motif in Francis Bacon's later work. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Bacon frequently incorporated horizontal metal frames and draped curtains into his compositions. Many critics interpret Bacon's use of these frames as symbolic of imprisonment, reinforcing the figure's isolation and torment. He had been incorporating veils, screens, and drapery into his paintings since his 1949 study from the human body, always placing them in front of the subject rather than behind. When asked why he repeatedly returned to Velázquez's original portrait of Pope Innocent X, Bacon explained that his fascination had nothing to do with the subject matter itself. Rather, he saw it as an excuse to use these colors, and you can't give ordinary clothes that purple without getting into a sort of false fauve manner. This reveals Bacon's deep preoccupation with color, form, and psychological intensity, elements that make his Pope series some of the most haunting images in modern art. The Anguished Man is infamous, not only for its eerie appearance, but also for the chilling legend that surrounds it. The person behind the Anguished Man remains unknown, but the story goes that the artist mixed their own blood into the paint while creating the haunting image of a bald, noseless figure caught in a silent scream. Soon after completing the piece, the artist allegedly took their own life, leaving behind the painting. In 2010, the Anguished Man came into the possession of Sean Robinson, who claims to have inherited it from his grandmother. According to Robinson, she had kept the painting locked away for years, convinced that it carried a curse and brought misfortune. When Robinson finally displayed it in his home, he and his family reportedly began experiencing a string of terrifying phenomena: shadowy figures lurking in the darkness, eerie moans and screams echoing through the house, and an unshakable feeling of being watched. With its disturbing history and the unsettling stories it has inspired, the painting remains one of the most mysterious and feared artworks in modern folklore.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.